Now, we have a very special guest for you guys. Arianna Huffington, co-founder of Huffington Post and editor-in-chief. Good, Arianna. How are you?
I am very good. It's great to be with you.
All right. Great to have you back. And I know you got a new book out. It's called Third World America, How Our Politicians Are Bending the Middle Class and Betraying the American Dream.
Exactly. And, I want to ask your listeners to come to the section we started on the Huffington Post, Third World America section, and share their own stories of struggle, overcoming obstacles. The idea is to get people talking about how our lives are changing and how we can find solutions.
Arianna, the Third World America is a strong title. So what's your evidence that we are slipping into that?
Well, it is a deliberately strong title because it's a very jarring phrase. That's not how we see America, right? America is a country that's great, noble, but the evidence of a shrinking middle class is why I use that title, because the middle class is really the heart of America. It's the foundation of the American dream. It's the foundation of our political stability and our economic prosperity. And if the middle class crumbles, we become a third world nation, a nation of extremes, the rich and everyone else. And not even the rich should want to live in a country where they're behind gates with their children protected by security guards and to try and make sure they don't get kidnapped.
No, on this show, we've shown a lot of stats as to why we think that's the case. For example, the top 1% of the country has gone from having about 9% of the national income in the late 1970s to now having 24% of the national income, the same number that they had right before the Great Depression began. So given that we've got this disproportionate distribution of income, one, is that the problem? And two, how do we fix it?
Well, there are many problems. I mean, the growing inequality is one of the problems. CEOs making 30 times as much as the workers 40 years ago are now making 300 times as much. But beyond that, there are all the tricks and traps, as Elizabeth Warren calls it, in the mortgage contracts, in the credit card contracts, that meant that the middle class was kind of promised a better life. That's a term that, as a Greek immigrant, as I associate with this country, a better life. And they were promised that often with no down payment, no proof of income. And then the skyrocketing interest rates kicked in, and for credit cards, and all the hidden fees and penalties that the banks imposed. And that was just one of the ways in which the dream turned into a nightmare.
So do you think Barack Obama is part of the problem here, or was it just simply, the Reagan years, the Bush years, et cetera?
Well, no, this has been an ongoing problem for 30 years. And what has happened is that Barack Obama, who basically campaigned to save the middle class. David Plouffe in his book calls the middle class, I have that section in the book, our North Star. He said, I'm running because the people are being hosed. And then he picked an economic team that really was very Wall Street-centric. And that's where the problem started in terms of the Obama years, because they underestimated the economic crisis. Once Wall Street was saved, they didn't bring the same sense of urgency about creating jobs, avoiding foreclosures. That's one of the main tragedies going on in this country. 2.9 million foreclosures last year. We expect 3 million this year. And the administration did not do enough to prevent foreclosures. And as you know, the cram-down amendment that would have prevented over 1 million people from losing their homes was killed in the Senate. But, I'm glad you asked about solutions, because I think that's really what we all need to be focusing on. And obviously, many of the solutions involve government action, and I have a whole chapter on that. But many of the solutions involve ourselves. taking action in our own lives, in our own communities, starting with finding our own resilience. It's really amazing how differently people respond to the crisis. Some people are crushed by losing a job and losing a home. Some people are really strengthened by it because they find different resources in themselves. And not only do they survive, but they actually sometimes build a better life. So how people respond to hardship is really incredibly important in terms of how we can get beyond it.
Right. There's no question about that. And all week we've been talking on the show about, hey, look, it's still a great country. There's still a lot of hope. And, there is one magic bullet, and that's education. And if you get straight A's, there isn't anything you can't do in this country. And so it's great in that sense, and it gives people personal empowerment. Now, having said that, obviously what the government does is enormously important because they get to affect things on a macro scale. So,
right.
Let's talk about specifics because, Robert Gibbs calls people the professional left. I get this criticism all the time. All you guys are doing is complaining and you're playing Monday morning quarterback. But as you mentioned in your last blog, and I mention all the time, there's actually a whole bunch of things we would have done differently, and we said it at the time. So can you tell you tell our audience what would you have done differently than the Obama team?
Well, the first thing is what I already mentioned, making jobs a priority. And that means bringing the kind of urgency that was brought to saving Wall Street. Remember, we were told we cannot afford to let the financial system collapse, period. We'll throw everything against the wall and save it, and they did. Well, that's the same attitude that we need to bring to saving Main Street. We didn't do that. We did not make sure that we passed cram-down legislation so that people could renegotiate their mortgages and be able to stay in their homes. We did not pass financial reform that would have basically ended too big to fail so that the systemic risk remains. That's why, I say in the book that another key step that we as individuals can take, instead of just waiting on the sidelines for government to act, is financial literacy. Building our own financial literacy is key. We can't just trust that all the financial institutions reaching out to us to offer us mortgages and credit cards have our best interests at heart. And now there are some amazing online places like HelloWallet.com that for $5 a month, I say in the book, can actually give you advice about your mortgage, about your credit card, about your bank. And the other thing that we recommend, as you know, is move your money. Move your money from the big banks that got bailed out and they didn't lend. And move your money into credit unions and move your money into community banks that are much more likely to reinvest in the communities.
Arianna, I want to ask you one more question. We're talking to Arianna Huffington. She wrote Third World America, How Our Politicians Are Abandoning the Middle Class and Betraying the American Dream. Of course, she's also the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Huffington Post. She's a nationally syndicated columnist. She's got 13 other books. She's busy. So, Arianna, is there... Now, I'm going to ask you, is there hope in Obama? But don't answer just yes, because that's too easy, okay? Because here's the guy who, according to Jonathan Alter's book, has a man crush on Tim Geithner. He picked Rahm Emanuel. He picked Larry Summers. He picked all these people that are the antithesis of change. They're exactly the same as before. So, I mean, was he kidding with us when he went for change? Was that just a trick to get us to vote for him? And is there any hope that that guy who went with all the establishment players who got it all wrong could somehow turn it around and get it right?
I think we don't know. I mean, I think that the speech that he gave this week was definitely very much the right tone. But whether he's actually going to do the right things, we don't know. But we cannot just wait for that. That's really my point. I think that people need to start rebuilding their lives and their communities while at the same time keep building a movement that would change the wind so that when politicians put their fingers up in the wind, it will be blowing in a different direction. And also, keep telling the truth about what the other side is proposing, which would simply expect tax cuts to solve all the major problems we're facing. I mean, the country is going through major structural shifts, and that's what I'm trying to capture in the book. This is not just a cyclical adjustment. So we need bold, big ideas. And the country has always been able to do that. You know that. It's always been able to innovate when it had to, capture the moment and bring about fundamental changes. So we need to recapture that spirit, both around our communities and in our own lives. And so all I'm saying is that it has to start with us right now, because I call it HOP 2.0. It's not just about electing leaders and expect them to solve all the problems. It's never happened like that. My favorite story that I have in the book is Martin Luther King meeting with Lyndon Johnson in March '65 and asking for the Voting Rights Act. And Lyndon Johnson saying, we don't have the votes. And politicians always say they don't have the votes. Until Martin Luther King went back to the people, the Selma March happened, and a few months later we had the Voting Rights Act.
Yes. Look, I couldn't agree with that more. If you want Obama to go to the left, you got to push him and shove him there, if you ask me. And it's not.
And you know what? I don't call it about the. That's the other thing. I don't see every problem as divided into left and right, because I think that there are many, many key issues in the country where there are people across the political spectrum who agree what needs to be done. And this is not bipartisanship, the kind of shallow bipartisanship of splitting the difference, the mushy middle. That's like George Will and Joe Scarborough and Tony Bluntly and the Cato Institute saying Afghanistan is not a war that is ever going to work, that it's unwinnable. And as Joe Scarborough said the other day on Morning Joe, we're spending $2 billion a week. Let's bring it home and rebuild our own country. We need to tap into that, because if we see something as just a left-wing solution, it's much easier to be marginalized.
Arianna, I'm a former Republican, so I know what you're talking about. It's just the country is so far right, and that's part of the reason why we've become third world America, and because the idea of the right wing is give more tax cuts to the rich, give more tax cuts to the rich, give more tax cuts to the rich. So when I say go left, I mean it in that sense. Otherwise,
yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's not. I mean, look at all the Democrats who support the war in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not a Democrat-Republican thing, and I couldn't care less about the parties. It's a matter of where we are in the political spectrum, and we're almost off the cliff to the right. So that's why I frame it that way. But I know what you're saying, and if you could pull conservatives in the country to understand the real problem and help us fix it, well, that would be a fantastic thing.
Well, and I'm not even saying about pulling them there. I'm talking about those who are already there by themselves. Whether it's a war in Afghanistan, whether it's the war on drugs, whether it's those real conservatives that you may not agree with anything on, but who feel that bailing out the banks that should have either been allowed to fail when they took excessive risk, or should have been bailed out with major conditions and strings attached, because that's capitalism, right? Because they just believe in the original model of capitalism.
Yeah, no, look.
That's what I'm talking about.
The Tea Party guys should have been the first ones to sign up with us, because they're the ones that hated the bailouts in the first place. But they got the wool. But they got the wool pulled over their eyes, and then so now. How do you bring them back? How do you talk sense into them when the Koch brothers are spending millions upon millions of dollars to make sure that they remain deceived?
Well, that's really the greatest danger now, which is that in times of real economic anxiety, people can be demagogued, and people are looking for scapegoats, and that's really what we are facing at the moment.
Yeah. Look, the book is very powerful. It's called Third World America. And Arianna Huffington, thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's just great to be with you always.
All right. Thank you.